What up, guys? Welcome to part 3 of a cable lat pullover, lat cable rope pullover, rope cable, whatever. If you guys have come this far, congratulations. You've made it to the advanced tips. If you've been following my stuff for a while, this is generally considered my nerd stuff. As you can see, the board is back. The board has been gone for a little bit. For those of you that don't know, some people out there, and they've commented it, so it's not just my mom, they call me the Bob Ross of bodybuilding because of this glorious nerd bodybuilding art that we have going on here. So this video, you're gonna get a whole bunch of cool stuff. I'm gonna ramble for a while, so this one won't be under 10 minutes. I'm also gonna try and make this in one cut. So my accountability is if you see an awkward cut in the middle and I go from here, then like I reappear here, then you know that I effed up and we had to cut in the middle. But I'm gonna do my best so you guys can see if I actually know what I'm talking about when I draw some stuff to see if I can keep it somewhat concise and accurate and don't have to feel like I need to start all over. So the very first thing I'm going to cover in this one, if you watched in the first one, and I talk about it a little bit in the second one, as we're doing a pullover, for the most part, this is where you want the end range of motion. This is going to be near a fully lengthened lat. You know, it might change in length up here a teeny bit more, but basically once you through some degree of shoulder flexion, and you're fully elevated as far as your scapula go, your shoulder blade goes, that is pretty much a fully lengthened lat. Again, the amount of length change going all the way into here into some more flexion is negligible, but I'm also going to discuss on the board over here why that generally, one, couldn't be great for the joint, but even if it was okay for the joint, even if you can comfortably get in this position, your lats don't do a whole lot from there anyway. So again, if you haven't watched, watch back number 1 and number 2, but the end range of motion for almost all lat stuff is going to be somewhere here. And the little test for that, the advanced thing is, again, we want everything working right in this plane. Discussed that kind of in the first one. And then basically, as soon as you raise your arms up, just go ahead and start to go into shoulder flexion. You can even kind of let yourself go into elevation a bit. As soon as you feel like stuff wants to stop or your elbows want to start to flare out a little bit, that's your end range of motion. So it'll be a little bit different for everybody. Some people, it might be here. Some people may be up here, you know, somewhere around in this position. For most people, it's going to be pretty good. So one, if you're doing that at home, I recommend you do. So if you're sitting down, if you're in a toilet stall right now, you know, raise your hand, high five the person next to you. Just kidding, that's disgusting. Put your phone down, don't watch me while you're pooping. But if you've done this, hopefully somewhere sanitary, sitting down on your couch or watching on your TV, go through this. And again, right now it should, if it feels just uncomfortable, just trying to smash this overhead, that should be a good indication that that might not be great for your shoulder joint. But assuming that it is, let's look at some stuff here, and then I'm going to draw some more stuff here relatively briefly. Let's get a different color. See, it's going on the fly. We need a third color. Orange is going to work. Thank you, orange. You're coming through clutch. So we've got your shoulder here. Hopefully you can tell this disturbing, kind of almost like some sort of creepy android I've drawn here. Look, its face looks just dead inside. In the future, we won't have to work out at all. Or just our little androids will work out, not even physically. I guess we'll be in the metaverse or something. That's what's coming now. That's what the kids are talking about. Metaverse. I don't know. Anyway, let's say that's your shoulder joint right there. And what we have hopefully drawn on here, if you can see that this is a creepy thing, this is a torso, this is an upper arm, this is your lower arm, this is your head. If you've come here for any type of production value, just leave now because it's only going to get worse. But you can see hopefully this is your lat down here. Obviously, yes, it has some fibers that come here as well too. You got some other stuff that kind of runs in very similar positions, has a little bit of a different insertion, definitely a big time different attachment with some Terry stuff up here. But for the most part, we're looking at the lat. So your lat, basically, as soon as you go overhead, it basically wraps around very, very close to the shoulder joint. And basically, the complicated part here, where's my other color? Orange. You have something where the distance from this muscle, the center of that muscle belly, technically, so obviously, depending on if you're watching this, this could be what your lat looks like. Zing, one string ladder. Or it could be very thick and meaty, girthy even. All these adjectives, they're horrible. They feel wrong, but they're accurate. But basically, if you have a string lat, then this is accurate for you. If you're Kai Green and you're watching this, hey Kai, what's up? Then basically it's going to be the center of that big, meaty, girthy lat. The center of that muscle belly, there's basically a distance from where that crosses over the joint. So where does this muscle cross over the joint? Where is that shortest distance? This thing right here is called an internal moment arm. So this is one big part of mechanical advantage. So again, mechanical advantage can be basically line of pull relative to the force that we're using, the plane of motion that we're using. But another big part is internal moment arms. And so when an internal moment arm is small comparatively to something else that's larger, your body will tend to use the thing that has the larger internal moment arm because it has mechanical advantage. You guys came for the nerd stuff. So in this position, when you are cranked overhead, you can see that your lat basically, it can't go quite right over top of the joint so much, but it's very, very close to the center axis of that joint. And we can see over here we have some other muscles. So again, we're looking from the side, so you can't quite get the pec coming across the center type feel, but these are your pecs. So we have some pec stuff that attaches up here. And again, some of it is, when your arm's overhead, it's going right here to your collarbone. Obviously, some of it's coming across to your sternum, and some of it is attaching down here to the ribs. And you can hopefully see a little bit of what I tried to draw there. But basically, your pecs have a larger internal moment arm from this start position. So most pullovers, whether it was with a rope, whether with a dumbbell, even if it doesn't wreck your joint, your lat's in a very, very weak position here, and your pecs are actually in a better position. Now, I'm not really saying that pullovers are a great pec exercise either. There's a lot better options in my opinion, but from the start position here, if you're going to start to pull into extension, your pecs are going to be a much better solution for your body than your lats. Now what changes, this is where stuff gets ugly. I would apologize, but I'm not going to. So let's say we start to go into shoulder extension. So as soon as we basically, let's even just show to the midpoint just to demonstrate this. So here we are in the midpoint. Now if we look at pec stuff, if we could see through your arm, for the most part, is just pulling down here, here, some up here. Pecs could pull more across. As most people know, we'd be in here. If the majority of your pecs contracted, it would pull right across here. Your lats, as that upper arm and the insertion point starts to move, will be more like this now. So your lats are gonna have basically a similar internal moment arm to what your pecs had from the start. So they're gaining advantage as you go from here, and as you go through extension, every single bit along the way they gain advantage to somewhere around the midpoint is where they're gonna have the largest internal moment arm and the most mechanical advantage, again, just from internal moment arm type things. And as you come into that shortened position, it starts to get smaller and drop off. It's another reason that you get kind of weak in that position. And again, that's where it's not just internal moment arm, but it's internal moment arm to the axis. So again, your shoulder joint, because your shoulder joint can do this, or it can do this, basically, you're no longer really in a plane where your pecs can even move in this position. They basically want the axis to pull from this way to this way, and now they would pull just across your body. So hopefully that makes sense. Yes, this is very ugly, but like I said, if you've been here and this isn't your first time, I have an ongoing motto, which I live my life by on this page. You get what you pay for. So if you don't like it, I will give you a full refund for whatever you paid for watching this video. Unless somehow you paid to watch this video, in which case there's gonna be little asterisks and my lawyer's gonna say in real small print, Joseph is not responsible for anything, blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyway, on to the next one. This is where we're gonna see if I can keep this all together when I'm drawing more stuff. So that's reason number one that I wanted to nerd out a little bit on why this end range of motion is a pretty good spot for any lat stuff. The next thing is gonna be talking about, would there be a time and a place for different body positions? So again, if I had to pick one position that I would say be the most efficient, again, it's the position I demonstrated a couple times beforehand, because this will allow the most range of motion with appropriate load challenge. So when you're doing in this position here, this rope and cable is almost 90 degrees to your upper arm. So it means from a torque standpoint, which I'll draw, which I'll nerd on in a minute, there's pretty good torque at your shoulder joint. So your lats have to do a pretty good amount of work here. And as you come to the point where it is actually about 90 to your upper arm, this is where torque is going to be the largest. The moment arm, the external moment arm in this case, is the longest. So this given load, as long as you don't change the load, is gonna have the most torque in this position. And as you come into the finish, that moment arm shortens drastically, where it's basically the shortest in this position. And so you're gonna have the least torque at your shoulder joint. Why is that important? From a strength profile standpoint, if we're looking at this single joint, we're looking at your lat, it's not exactly accurate, but it's pretty damn close. You're generally gonna be the strongest here. You're probably gonna be the next strongest here, and you're gonna be the least strongest, some people also call that weakest, right here. So what I just kind of explained from a torque standpoint, the torque is expressing the same way your body is able to express force externally. So all that means in fancy terms, with some more fancy terms, is the exercise's resistance profile matches your body's strength profile for this exercise. So that's why this is my number one pick. If you're going to have a single exercise, you're gonna do this in just one position, that's why I say go to there. because it's full range of motion, pretty much matching what your body's capable of doing. Very efficient. Now, that being said, is there a time and place to do other positions? Maybe. And so what I mean by that is, could you do a rope pullover where you're further back? So all other things being the same. So if I even take the same body position, being further back will make it heavier here comparatively if the weight stays the same. So more torque in this position and less torque in every single position as we go up, to the point where here, it's actually not too great, because if this cable is right in line with my upper arm, that means the line of force is going straight through the joint and there's no load in this position. So again, if I was going to choose one spot, this isn't great because there's no torque here where my lat is still relatively strong, and it's extremely heavy here, basically where my lat is the weakest. So again, if you, all other things being the same, the further back you go, the heavier it gets here in this fully shortened position, heavier, more torque. And all other things being the same, the more upright you stand has the same effect. So even if I went back to this first position and I stood more upright, hopefully you can see when I'm here, again, everything just lines up straight. So I'm having kind of the same thing happening where, one, I'm not even getting to this position. I'm right now kind of in the mid-range where my lat is the strongest and there's little to no torque. Again, that line of force almost lines up with the shoulder joint. And when I pull in here, it's extremely heavy. Now, again, could you have the goal, say, is there a reason you could want to overload the fully shortened position of your lat? Yes, there could be a reason for that, which I'm not going to go into. But if you wanted to for some reason, then these positions could be a fine option. Then you could go, okay, well, I'm just going to trash my lat in the shortened position here. So you just stay in the range. There's no point in going up here because basically this is taking a nap. But let's say you just wanted to perform pullovers right here. Your options could be staying close and doing this, or you could be in the same position you were before, walking further back, and get a pretty similar effect. Just staying here, overloading that shortened position. Now, what could be one of the reasons you want to do this? One of the reasons you could want to do this could be for kind of a mechanical drop set, which again is a way to extend the set by changing the mechanics of the exercise as opposed to changing the load. And so all that means is I could say, okay, well, I'm going to start here. You've got whatever weight you've got there, and I'm going to just completely trash my lats in the shortened position. I get to the point, I do 10, 20, I'm really strong, so I do like 1,000 reps, and I get to the point where I can't quite do 1,001, and now I want to extend the set. So normally if I can't move this weight anymore, a traditional drop set is you would just drop the weight. For a mechanical drop set, I'm going to change the mechanics of the exercise. So now I'm changing the loading pattern, getting in this position and making it now so it's heavy in this position. Before, this amount of shoulder flexion, extension, whatever, the shoulder position had little to no torque. Now when I lean forward, it's loaded. So now I can continue the set, because when I get into this position where I couldn't tolerate the amount of external torque there was before, now that moment arm is shorter and I can tolerate it here, and it's heavier where I'm strong and I've still got a lot of contractile ability left, and now I could extend the set here. So you can manipulate it, and you could even do it in the middle of sets too, a little bit as well too. Video 1 or 2, basically I said there could be a reason to actually kind of have a controlled motion as you're going through it. So let's say you want a pretty consistent amount of torque going through it. You could have controlled hip flexion extension occurring so that the moment arm to the shoulder joint stays pretty consistent. I want the weight feeling kind of the heaviest at every given position of shoulder flexion extension. You could do something controlled kind of like this. So I have seen people do this. Maybe that's the goal of why they're doing it. I don't know. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but if you were doing it controlled, it could be for the goal of having more consistent torque at the shoulder joint through the entire range of motion, which is a far cry from people just, power humping their way into their lat rope pullover, which I don't recommend power humping in the gym. Save that for home. So hopefully that kind of explains a little bit of how changing your body position or changing the distance from the cable can change the torque, which again is really, if you haven't watched some stuff before, maybe I'll link a video up here. Trevor will link it because I can barely operate my cell phone in real life, so Trevor will help me with the tech of this video. But there'll be a link up here where I go over to the basics of moment arms, torque, some of that stuff. And why is that important? Because your muscles don't recognize just external load. They recognize and manage torque at joints. And how you equate torque is load plus moment arms. And so again, watch that video. If you're hearing me say all this stuff and torque, and you're saying, oh, that's all this nerd stuff, whatever. It's not a bad thing to be aware of. Everyone is somewhat aware of it in some way, shape, or form. It's why the bottom of squats are hard and the top of squats are easy, even traveling the same distance. The reason for that is a moment arm thing. It's the same reason that this part of lateral raises is easy and this part of lateral raises is hard. That's a moment arm thing. So let's go over to the board. I'll try really hard to do one more little drawing without messing it up, and we'll see what we can do. So let's do the standing up versus the bent forward. So let's try and have the same position here. So all things being the same, here's the cable point. And let's go with arm here. We'll start with arm first. Arm. And we'll have shoulder joint. See if I can do it. This is hip. Okay, we'll draw some feet so I'm not confused. Here's your pelvis, so I'm not confused. And here's your shoulder joint, and here's your head. So let's do this moment arm thing if I can. And let's do the cable. So cable and line of force. Gene is pulling this way. Okay, so as we go through this range of motion, what would be the difference if I am, yeah, we'll do the start position on this. So we'll compare two positions on this. So we'll go here, we'll compare three positions. Why the heck? Not here, and we'll pull in at the side here. So if we look first and foremost at this cable position, so this is the hand. This is going through this first bent forward position in three different positions. I'm going to erase the cable as we go so we don't get super ugly. But so in this start position here, we do basically, where is this line of force closest to the joint? And we have a given distance here. All right, so there is the moment arm there. So again, you don't have to know the exact distances unless you really want to nerd out. But what you really need to know here is if the moment arm is larger comparatively to another moment arm, it's more torque, which just means harder. Or you can really think of it as more force. You can even think in terms, it's not load, but basically heavier and harder for the lats. So this is the distance when we're in this start position. So here, like I said, this is where this is the strongest, this is the next strongest. So you can see the moment arm here is this distance. Before I even erase it, well, let's just have both of them there for a minute. So I do the cable here. Let's say this is halfway through the shoulder flexion-y, extension-y type thing. You can see on this one pretty clearly, if we keep that about 90-ish, maybe somewhere right around here. Well, in this case, actually, excuse me, it would be the arm because it's not past. I'll call that about 90 right there. So this is the moment arm. And so all you have to see here is that basically that moment arm is longer. So again, if we look at this moment arm here, this one is shorter, this one is comparatively longer. So hopefully that makes sense. If we just multiplied 30 pounds by this distance, this one would be heavy-ish, this one would be heavier. And I'm going to erase them before it gets really ugly when I come into here. Let's try all this again. And so here is pulled all the way in at the side. Here is the cable joint. Let's see if I can manage a straight line, straight-ish line. Okay, so in this case, this is the line of force. Does this make sense to everybody? Here's the torso, here's the arm. Trevor, can you see that? Trevor can see it, so we're good. And so here is the moment arm here. Boop, 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 boop. And that is the sound moment arms make, boop, 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 boop. And hopefully you can see here, obviously, as that cable gets close to the shoulder joint, the cable, for the most part, obviously you can see for that first one where I need to extend out the line of force to see the moment arm, but for a lot of times the cable is the line of force, and so can be helpful to see moment arm. So as I pull into this position, we can see that that moment arm gets extremely short. So hopefully that kind of made sense-ish a little bit, where here it was heavy, here it was heaviest, and as we come into that position where we are weakest, that moment arm is the smallest, so we have the least amount of torque. So that's why I like this bent forward position, because it really matches what your body is capable of doing. We'll do one more. Let's actually keep in the same position, just standing upright. I can still see his foot there. I'll do it before I lose it. Foot, hip. Okay, and like I said, let's just stand upright. So we adjust this shouldery thing. I think that's the same distance. And here's the shoulder joint, and here's his head. He likes working out. Yay! We'll even just... Yay! People right now are flipping to the next video. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not sorry. This is what you paid for. So we do this thing. This person is upright. Now let's do the exact same position. We'll do this one backwards. So now your arm is in the exact same position here, down here, and here is the line of force from the cable. And remember where it was before. Remember where it is now. So we're looking, what color was moment arms? Orange. We go here, 90-degree angle where that line is closest. to the shoulder joint. This is what I'm looking for, those 90-degree angles. So now this is that moment arm thing. Can everybody understand this? So hopefully this one's a pretty bad drawing. But again, this is foot, leg, pelvis, torso, and there's your arm there. There's an elbow joint in there somewhere. This person does have elbows. So there's the elbow joint right there. So hopefully you can see when you're stood upright. Remember, so this was the exact same lat length, the exact same amount of shoulder extension as when it was bent over. So this is literally from going like this to just standing up with the exact same cable in the exact same spot. And hopefully you can see how much longer that moment arm is. And let's make up a number. Let's say it's 5 times as long. Well, that weight is technically 5 times as heavy feeling at the shoulder joint. It's going to be 5 times the length of the moment arm. So this is going to generate 5 times the torque in that given position. And now as we raise the arms up and up and up, so let's just do one position here so we don't get too ugly. But so we go through here, is a position, and here's the exact same position at the top. So now we go here, and again, you're going to get what you pay for. Here's the cable. So now if we draw the line of force from this cable, we extend it out. Boop, 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 boop is the noise moment arms make. Where's the moment arm here? Well, right here, it's basically going right through the joint. There's little to no moment arm. So now if we stood up, son of a bitch, we're not cutting, we're going to go. So now if we just stood up, and this is the exact same position, we're again with the same weight, the same cable position, we saw that was one of the heavier spots. Now here, when basically that cable is pulling straight through and lined up perfectly with the upper arm, and that line of force is going right through the shoulder joint, the moment arm is 0. And we have a similar thing going on here if we extend this one. Might as well, while we're at it, let's just go full on ugly, and we extend that one out there. We can see there, somewhere in the middle actually, it is heavier, heavy-ish. I might have changed the arm length there. I'm not going to draw that one because that one's going to get confusing. So anyway, all you need to know here, really heavy and really light at this position. So like I said, if you did this, this is stuff that people can inherently feel, where if you were in this position, you say, okay, well, that's not too heavy there, and you stood up with the same thing and went, oh gosh, this is really heavy here. That's why. The weight's staying the same, the moment arm's increasing, and you're getting more torque at the shoulder joint. So as you guys can see, whether the quality of this video was good or not, I did it all in one cut, so good for me. And hopefully that gives you just a little bit deeper of an understanding of some of the things that we don't want to be arbitrary. Why do we not crank all the way overhead for lat stuff? Why do we start here? There's other reasons for that as well, too. There's a difference between here and out here. Maybe that'll be a different video. But that's one of the main reasons, even in this same arm path, why you don't want to crank stuff overhead, even if you're capable of going there. And this is also just a little bit of a deeper understanding while how we could have the same weight on the cable. We could be going through the same joint range of motion, body position, distance from the cable will drastically change how this exercise and how this weight expresses torque at a given joint at a given point in range of motion. So if there's going to be one where you're going to have questions, comments, concerns, or just tell me how awesome my drawing was, Mom, if you're watching, you can tell me how awesome my drawings were. Everyone else, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But if you guys found this valuable, you like some nerd stuff, don't hesitate to do the YouTube thing for me. Pretty please, like, subscribe, tell some friends, tell some other people that are muscle nerds. And like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feelings, in case you guys don't know, this is a safe space. So if you have feelings, comments down below, safe space, I'm here to nurture. Hypertrophy hugs all around, only if it's consensual. But hopefully you liked it. That's it, part 3. And until the next one, guys, enjoy.